You really have to wonder how bad things are. I mean, they've called out Barack Obama to lecture black men. The Kamala Harris campaign has. They've called out Bill Clinton to talk about the border. That didn't go well either. He said, you know, if you vetted these people, Americans wouldn't be getting killed. It's so bad, these internal polls, that Kamala Harris has agreed to an interview with Fox News and Bret Baier. Now, granted, he's not a big fan of Donald Trump, and he's not going to ask the hardest questions, but he'll ask some questions. Too bad it's not live. They'll get a chance to edit again. But how bad are those internal polls? They got to be pretty bad. Mark Lauder is joining me now, former Trump campaign surrogate, former member of the Trump administration. Mark, nice to see you again.
Good morning, Steve.
So how bad are those internal polls, Mark? I mean, you've got Barack Obama out there wagging his finger at black men. That didn't go over well. It looks to me like Donald Trump is going to have a bigger margin in the black community than we've seen since 1960, since I've been alive, Mark. Pretty remarkable, for starters.
Well, and it makes sense because, I mean, people, it doesn't matter about your color, your gender, your religion, your background. They understand that things were more affordable when Donald Trump was in office. The border was more secure. The world wasn't at war. And that's nothing that Kamala Harris can say that she's done, because she's made it all worse. But to give you an example, I was just looking it up, say the battleground state of Michigan. Right now, the Real Clear Politics average has Trump up 1. In 2020, Joe Biden was up by 7. And in 2016, Hillary Clinton was up by 11. That's an 8 to 12 point shift to Donald Trump. There's no way anybody can overcome that kind of a shift and still try to think that you're winning this race.
Well, that's true. You know, and look, the biggest muff, the biggest gaffe, maybe of the last, because Kamala Harris had a terrible 2 weeks, right? There's just no question about it. Terrible 2 weeks. The biggest gaffe in that 2 weeks was on The View, another softball interview. What would you do differently? Well, nothing comes to mind. I thought you were different than Joe Biden. Well, I'm not Joe Biden. We got that, or as Saturday Night Live calls him, Joe Biden, which I thought was cute because Saturday Night Live's pounding on him 3 weekends in a row. And that also tells you how bad things are for the Harris campaign, don't they?
Absolutely. I mean, look, this thing has been a disaster from the start. It reminds me of 2019. Because when she ran for president in 2019, she came out of the gate really strong. If I remember correctly, Donald Trump even praised her for her launch and her announcement. But then just a few months later, as people started to hear her, listen to her, see her on stage or in those interviews, she collapsed. She didn't even make it to the first voting in Iowa in 2020. She was gone before the end of the year. And so we're seeing it happen again, because as more and more people listen to her, they realize all she has is joy and vibes. Those are gone. The sugar high. There's only so much dessert you can eat. At some point,
true.
You got to have a real meal.
Yeah, you get a headache, right? She is. I call her the Cheeto of politicians, all crunch and no substance. I'm not even sure there's much crunch there, to be honest with you. Like a soggy Cheeto. Do you think Joe Biden, this was all intentional? First of all, he drops out of the race, and then, before they can do this idea of going around the country for a month with 6 or 8 candidates and doing these town halls and so forth and this mini primary thing, he endorses her, which means they're stuck with her. And now he's not helping her at all, and he can go down in history as the only guy that ever beat Donald Trump, right? He can take that and file it away however, him and Jill, well, we beat Donald Trump, you didn't. Because I feel it's like it's so intentional. He undercuts her all the time. Bill Clinton just undercut her yesterday, saying, if you vetted these people like Laken Riley wouldn't get killed. I mean, it's just one thing after another, right?
No, absolutely. Look, I think Joe Biden is setting this up to have his cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
Because if she loses, he's going to say, well, if you wouldn't have replaced me, I would have beat him.
That's
if she wins, he's going to say, well, I stepped aside and paved the way for the next generation. He's trying to have it both ways. I don't think history's going to judge it that way. I think they're going to realize he should have never run for re-election and had that primary, because another reason is that primary gives you momentum over a long period of time. She's still trying to introduce herself. And I mean, just yesterday, talking about transparency and health records, that's the sign of a desperate campaign. You're just throwing anything out there right now and hoping something sticks because the polls are that bad for you.
I thought it was great over when they were asking, Kristen Welker asking, well, don't you care about Donald Trump's cholesterol level? No, I don't care about Donald Trump's cholesterol level. I care about being able to buy bacon to increase my own cholesterol level. That's what I care about, right?
The war against bacon. That should be a bumper sticker. Vote Trump for cheap bacon.
Exactly. You know, let's have some sizzle back in this thing. But the way that these people on some of these mainstream media outlets are so desperate is because they're desperate as well, Mark. They're in a full-blown panic. They realize the boss is coming back, and he's going to clean some things up. And how about this? I think this is one of the most brilliant ideas. Putting Elon Musk in charge of being responsible with taxpayer dollars, cleaning up the mess, cleaning up all the wasteful spending. My God, what a brilliant idea.
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, put a businessman, put a guy who knows how to deal with business in charge of figuring out what the heck are we spending your money on? And
Right.
That's the key. We've got to remember it's not the government's money, it's your money. We do not have a revenue problem. And I love pointing this out, especially on the liberal networks. After the Trump tax cuts, federal revenue went up because businesses were booming. People were buying. Revenue went up. Spending went up more. We don't have a revenue problem. We have a spending problem, and we've got to stop wasting it and spending it on stuff we don't need to be spending it on.
You know, Mark, I saw you there on Chicken Noodle News here a few days ago over on CNN. Up front, as the whole idea of Barack Obama lecturing black men about voting for Kamala Harris went right off the tracks into the ditch, and black women saying, you know what? Who are you to lecture black men? Another failed opportunity, another failed delivery of a talking point. They can't get anything right at the Harris campaign right now, can they?
No. I mean, why do you think that Barack Obama going into any battleground state is going to work? We tried that. They tried that in 2016 when he was the actual president. He and Michelle and Bill and Hillary were out in Michigan. They were out in Pennsylvania, and they lost both of those states while he was president. What do you think 8 years removed, people are sitting around going, oh, I was going to vote for Trump, but now I'm not because Barry told me not to.
I give you credit, Mark. You go right to where the action is over at Chicken Noodle News and so forth. You do.
I'll be on MSNBC tonight.
Well, there you go. I mean, somebody's got to do it, and you're a good man for it. Okay, about a minute left. What's it going to take for Donald Trump to close the deal, close the sale, and come away with a majority in the Senate and the House?
Okay, I'm going to surprise you. It's not on Donald Trump. It's on everybody who's listening to this program. You've got 3 weeks. Go find 5 people in the next 3 weeks who wouldn't otherwise vote. Oh, my vote's not going to count. Oh, it's rigged. Oh, it doesn't matter. No, it does. And so whether you're voting by mail, voting early, voting in person on Election Day, don't go vote alone. Bring 5 friends with you.
There you have it. Fight like a Democrat. Bring as many people as you can. And in Michigan and in Pennsylvania, look up 10xvotes.com. 10xvotes.com. It shows you how to find 10 people that think like you that need to go vote. Go check out that website right now. Michigan and Pennsylvania, it's live. They've got the databases. It's good stuff. Mark Lauder, you should check it out too. 10xvotes.com. Thank you for being here.
Good to see you, Steve.
Greatly appreciate it. There you have it. We'll take a break and be back on the Steve Gruber Show.